Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Emmanuel Arce. I am the 17-year-old permaculturist here in Southern Florida. So in today's video, I want to talk about growing potatoes in South Florida. It's really important we talk about this topic because not a lot of people know that you could actually grow potatoes here in South Florida. Lots of people know that because of our ground issues and the bugs and insects that tend to roam around in our soil, we're not able to successfully grow potatoes in the ground. However, like there is raised beds and other alternatives, you're able to grow at least a small handful of potatoes. So I experimented in the Smart Pots Milk Crate Smart Pot Liner, and I grew a potato in that milk crate. It took about a month or two for the plant to start dying off, and I harvested potatoes. I've tried multiple times in my gardening journey growing potatoes, but I've always came across that issues that insects and bugs tend to eat the newly developed potatoes. However, when it came to that milk crate, I realized that I successfully grew a handful of potatoes. Not to mention the plant looked perfectly healthy, it grew very well, it was in the perfect growing conditions, and it was the easiest thing to grow. You can't expect a huge harvest from your potato plantings because we are in South Florida, we do have lots of humidity and heat, so it does tend to decrease the amount of potatoes you'll be harvesting as well as the size. But we're gonna completely ignore that because I really love the little handful of potatoes I was able to enjoy. And so now we're gonna go ahead and plant an entire raised bed full of potatoes that I cut into pieces and that are starting to sprout. So I want to go ahead and discuss with you guys about today's partner, Epic Gardening. As you all may know, I am now an ambassador for the Epic Gardening team, and we are here to help you all cultivate your green thumb. And out of the many products that they offer in the Epic Gardening shop, one of the things that they sent over for me to grow in my garden is their Birdie's raised bed. Now, galvanized metal containers have been trending in the garden industry, but nothing beats a good metal Birdie's raised bed. They look very, very great. They come in amazing colors. They come in multiple different sizes, fit for any garden space. Not to mention that they are super easy to install and they're so pretty to look at in the garden. And something that I like to use my raised beds for is root crops, especially potatoes, radishes, carrots, anything in the root crop family. That's where I'm mainly going to be using my raised beds. So make sure you go ahead and head over to the Epic Gardening shop to go ahead and get your very own products. They sell seeds, seed supplies, and of course raised beds. All of those are amazing products, and if you are interested in getting yourself some cool products from the Epic Gardening shop, make sure to go ahead and use my discount code, the Ultimate Gardener 5, for a 5% discount on your order. All the links and all the information you need will be listed down below, so huge shout out to Epic Gardening for partnering with us on this video. So a few tips I would like to give when it comes to preparing your potatoes is you really want to make sure that a potato is sliced up properly. If you have a very small potato with a few eyes on them, you're able to go ahead and plant that entire potato in the ground or in your raised bed. However, if you have a big enough potato that has many eyes developing on it, you're able to split it up into pieces to have multiple potato plants, which in this case, that's what I did. So I approximately have around like 6 or 7 potatoes that I cut up into pieces to plant. Some of them have not fully sprouted, but they are almost about to. So we'll be having a good decent amount of harvest once these plants have died off and I'm in here digging up some potatoes. So a few ground rules you want to go ahead and keep in mind with setting up your raised bed is you want to line the bottom. If you want to have no weeds or any type of issues with your grass, I would recommend lining it with either weed blocker or cardboard. I use cardboard since it's naturally compostable, it's able to decompose. That's what a lot of us gardeners use, which is cardboard, because it will buy us some time. But weed blocker is another great option. 2 is filling up your raised bed. We know raised beds could be quite costly to fill up with soil, so a good way you could go ahead and prevent from filling the entire thing up with soil is by putting natural organic matter in the bottom. Like some people use tree logs, I use tree branches and banana leaves, but you can use any type of branch or leafy greens or anything that's able to decompose over time in the bottom layer of your raised bed to go ahead and take up some space. Then is to fill up the rest of your raised bed with your preferred soil. Never use garden soil because you do not know what you're introducing into your raised bed, especially if you have clay soil, sandy soil. You don't want to introduce that into your raised bed. You want to go with any type of aerated, well-draining soil that retains a little bit of moisture. Next up is to feed or fertilize your soil, because like I'm using root crops, it's really important I give them a good feed in here since they're all heavy feeders. But in general, it's a rule of thumb to always add fertilizer into your raised bed. I'll be using Vermistera earthworm castings, which is my go-to fertilizer. Now it's time to plant your potatoes. It's really important to plant the eyes facing upwards, and then once the plants get about a foot tall, you want to start hilling them so they can produce more potatoes along their side of their stems. So let me go ahead and go through and plant all my potatoes. So I went through and I planted all my potatoes, and now I'm gonna add a top dress of mulch. You can use other things like garden straw, grass clippings, anything you have on hand that is not huge chunks of wood or anything like that that will prevent germination from coming up. But it's really important you add a top dress to prevent weeds and to maintain moisture in the raised bed where your potatoes are planted. So make sure you keep that in mind when it comes to you planting your potatoes. So here's a few tips when it comes to growing and caring for potatoes. One is that you want to make sure that their location that they're planted in receives 5 to 6 plus hours of direct sunlight, since potatoes are full sun loving plants. 2, the soil that they're planted in has to be well draining, aerated, that retains a little bit of moisture to keep the plants constantly hydrated. Number 3, you want to add fertilizer to it because potatoes are heavy feeders. They require lots of supplemental minerals and vitamins that keep their plants happy and thriving. So make sure you add any type of organic matter when you plant them, and about halfway through their growing stage, which would be in about like a month, you would go ahead and add some organic matter to it before or when the plants are starting to bloom to promote more tuber action or more tubers to be developed. 4 is to make sure you hill up your potatoes. The more you hill up, the more potatoes you'll harvest. Next is watering. It's really important to keep your potatoes hydrated while they're growing on, because potatoes do not like to have long periods of drought or long periods of no water, because it's really important that you keep their roots hydrated so they can continuously make sure that the new tubers they're developing are healthy and they're up to par. Those are a few tips of growing potatoes here in South Florida. I will give you guys an update on how they do later on in the season once I see some action. Now, I'm really excited and thankful for Kevin to inviting me over to his ambassador team, because this is really exciting and I'm able to showcase the amazing products he has. Once again, all the links you need towards his shop is down below in the description box below. Make sure you go ahead and check it out, and don't forget the discount code, because who doesn't like a little discount on anything that they would love to purchase. So thank you all so much for watching. May God bless you and your entire family, and never forget to grow big, ultimate gardeners. Bye everyone.